Hey everyone, it's Lulasai. I am here with a review for Rogue One, a Star Wars story. This is the first spin-off movie in Star Wars. It came out in 2016, and it is, actually I was saying the first, but I guess we could maybe count Star Wars The Clone Wars. We don't talk about that movie. That one is pretty bad, although probably not. That one is a lot more mainline, I would say. Um, but yeah, so this is directed by Gareth Edwards. And on the topic of directors, can I just say, my pronunciation of the director's name in Pitch Black was pretty bad. I think my review for Pitch Black was really good, but yeah, I'm sorry for how bad that was. Lesson learned, if I don't know how to pronounce the director's name, hopefully I will just look it up and before I start the review. So in that case, it was David Twohy. Twohy. David Twohy. It's a slightly strange, or not strange, I shouldn't say. A bit of an abnormal spelling, I would say, for the what it pronounces to, but that's cool. This time though, it's real easy. It's Gareth Edwards. This was the guy that made a not so great Godzilla movie. But other than that, I do think I like Gareth Edwards movies in general. So, Rogue One is taking place basically like moments before A New Hope, which is, or maybe not moments, but very soon after this movie's events, A New Hope will be taking place. Which is interesting because the other spin-off movie in this series, Solo, is also taking place right before A New Hope. So, yeah, Rogue One, in my opinion on that, I'll get that right out of the way, because not really a negative, doesn't count to the score. In my opinion, I don't think we need a movie or a series for every single little event in Star Wars universe history, but I do give this one a pass because it is so awesome. But it is funny to think about. At this point, we might as well just do a spin-off movie about Darth Vader's life in the bacta tank, right? Like, I'm curious actually how, he survived that, and I'm curious how he lives his day-to-day life in that suit with no complaints, or maybe he is in constant pain all the time. That's something I don't know, right? I'm just joking, but yeah, so it is kind of funny that they're not really doing this anymore. Actually, that's not true, because Mandalorian Grogu came out, right? So they are still doing this spin-off concept, but for the record, I don't think we need constant spin-offs for every single little event in Star Wars history. But this one's awesome. So this is, Rogue One is one of the best movies in the Star Wars series for sure. Despite all its baggage, and it does have some baggage to go along with it, but this might be one of the most critical Rogue One reviews you ever see, and it's coming from a place of love. I've seen this movie like over 30 times. It's one of my dad and I's personal favorites to rewatch. It is infinitely rewatchable. First half can be a little bit more of a slug to get through just when you've seen it so many times, but yeah, I mean, the movie is, I mean, the second half is just completely incredible. But overall, I just think it's a very good highlight. Anyways, we need to get this review moving. So, plot is that we follow... The point of the movie is that it's about how the rebels gain access to the Death Star, the first Death Star's plans. That's the point of the movie. But individually, the plot is that we have Jyn Erso, who has turned to a life of crime because she lost her parents, her mother was killed, her father, Galen Erso, was forced to become a... by the way, I think her mother's name is Mira, but unfortunately she's not too relevant. But Galen, he is Le Chiffre, Mads Mikkelsen. He is forced to work on the Death Star, and there is of course, a little twist with this. Well, not really a twist, but, it's not all that it seems at first. I will be avoiding spoilers in this. Yeah, I'm doing a real bad job of moving this review along. Let's start kicking it up, okay? So hopefully you can stay with me. So, Galen Erso, he is a gifted scientist who's being forced against his will to make the Death Star. Jyn Erso is his daughter, who is just like a random criminal, basically trying to make her way in the galaxy, as Jango Fett would say. The rebels are... they've learned... Well, it's kind of weird because they kind of already know about the Death Star's existence, but at the same time they don't. So they're trying to... So they send their operative, their morally gray operative, Cassian Andor, to locate and rescue Jyn, although K2SO is really the one doing the rescuing, who is the Cassian's droid, who's a reprogrammed Imperial droid. And the rebels need Jyn because they want an entrance and a conversation with Saw Gerrera, who used to be one of the rebels, but now is more of like an extremist rebel chapter that is completely its own thing now. So, and Saw has information about Galen, who the rebels need to know about because they need to find him and eliminate him before, in their minds, that he can finish the Death Star. Really, of course, the movie makes it clear that it doesn't really matter either way whether he lives or dies, to be honest. But at that point, the rebels don't know that, so they're trying to do that. And we also have Director Krennic, who is the main villain here. He is just this ambitious, officer who's trying to impress the Emperor. And yeah, so that's the gist of it. So Rogue One, let's start with the positives, because the negatives is going to be the more interesting part, and we're going to save that. It's going to be a little bit more lengthy, a little bit more extensive. I'll have more to say there. Positives are pretty clear. The visuals are obviously 10 out of 10. They're completely amazing. I love the gritty theme of the film. I mean, this is the most gritty and grounded movie of the entire series. Cassian is very much a good guy rebel who just straight up, murders an innocent who did nothing wrong and didn't deserve it. Just unapologetically does that, and it's to serve the story, to serve the purpose of, hey, it's not so black and white all the time. The rebels aren't necessarily always the good guys doing the good thing at all times. They might have, a more good future in mind in a world they want, but they're just as willing to play dirty to get there, and that's the whole point of the movie. So it's very grounded and gritty because of that. There's a darker atmosphere and theme just surrounding this movie in general. It's not nearly as, constantly lighthearted as the rest of the movies are. There are jokes and stuff, but, I mean, you watch the ending of this movie, it's pretty bleak, right? But with the inkling of hope, which is another point of the movie, is that rebellions are built on hope. That's one of the most important lines of this. So I respect the whole theme and angle of the rebels are willing to do just as much harm as the Empire is. So the visuals, I mean, the reason the visuals are so good is because the final battle, man, the Battle of Scarif is so good. Like, truly one of the best battles in the entire series. Both the land, beach stuff, and the space stuff. It's, like, Scarif is such a breath of fresh air as a planet. It's so unique. It's literally like the Bahamas, and then you have the walkers, which inexplicably the ATs are getting destroyed a little too easily, but I think we can excuse that. I think the reason, I didn't look this up, but I believe the reason is because they've been like reformatted for like transportation primarily, because their bellies are either empty entirely, which obviously compromises their defenses, or they have orange bellies, which are similar to the Kyber crystal transports in Jeddah City. So I think that these particular walkers are either prototypes really early on, or they're straight up not troop transports, or they're not made for combat exclusively and they're just being repurposed for transport. That's my personal headcanon for that, but it doesn't really matter too much either way. But yeah, Scarif battle is just amazing. The space battle, it might be the single best space battle in all of Star Wars. It might be, it's pretty close. I'd have to obviously compare them all side by side, but it's really good. The Hammerhead Corvette, what it does with the two Star Destroyers, cinema, just perfect. Yeah, there are some characters I like here. So K2SO is a standout. Director Krennic is a standout. Cassian is alright, but if I'm being honest, he only becomes truly legendary once you watch the Andor series, which came out many, many years later. So I can't really count that when judging his character here. At this point in time, Cassian's just alright. He's not amazing or anything, but he's alright. Yeah. So overall, the movie, I mean, I've said this over and over again, but I mean, these movies, if one thing that Star Wars gets right is the pace, the momentum, man. This is such an expensive looking movie that never relents and never slows down, and I really appreciate that. Okay, so, oh yeah, and also the design. So one more, another major positive I should say before I forget, is that I love how much of a war movie this is. Obviously the series is called Star Wars, but this one is much more grounded, realistic war-like, with sci-fi elements, obviously. So Star Wars as a concept was built on, you know, the designs of World War II machinery and weaponry. Fun fact if you didn't know that, that is a true thing. And this one just really takes it to the next level with the whole, you know, first person kind of over the, or third person over the shoulder kind of view with the troops getting killed. It's just a little bit more visceral than the rest of them. and combine that with the gritty tone, it just makes for a more realistic war movie at times compared to the rest of Star Wars. Okay. Oh yeah, and also I should say there are some good fan service moments, obviously, right? The Death Star field test is badass the way it looks. The I'm about to criticize some of the fan service, but I would be lying if I said I wasn't happy to see Mustafar and Vader and Tarkin. Even Tarkin looks fine. I'm about to criticize another CGI character, but Tarkin looks fine. I think he was done pretty well. Unfortunately, Leia. Okay, so let's start with the negatives now. CGI Leia. So unfortunately, I don't know why. Maybe it's because Tarkin is more in it, so they've put more attention to detail. Tarkin looks a little uncanny, but overall passable, acceptable. Leia, though, Princess Leia looks real odd, real uncanny at the end there. It's only for a few seconds, so it's not the end of the world, but in my opinion, I mean, they either should have just done it better, which is what they should have done, but if they were unable to, the technology or the time or resources they had at the time, they should have either only had her voice, or they should have had some legacy scenes play during the credits or something if you really want to give a shout out to Leia or something. But the way they depicted her here, very strange, completely distracting, kind of kills the mood at the very end of the movie because of how weird it is. Some of the fan services, overplaying it at this point. I mean, you had Force Awakens, which was already copying A New Hope almost one for one at times, using it as a crutch. This one isn't using the story as a crutch, but it is using familiar things as a crutch occasionally. Like C-3PO, R2-D2, not a big deal. I'm kind of happy to see them, but do they really need to be here? Maybe not. It's kind of questionable that they're there currently and they're not on the ship with Leia as well. That would probably make more sense if they were on the ship with Leia. That's not the big one, though. The big one for me is the two recognizable characters. I don't know their names because they don't matter. But the two recognizable characters from the Mos Eisley Cantina from A New Hope. These two guys make an appearance in Jedha City, and it is hilariously out of place and bizarre. I have no idea why they're there, because they're wanted men in every system, so you'd think they wouldn't be there, but okay, so I can accept that they're there, whatever. It gets more ridiculous, though, because the Death Star field test is about to occur. So they must have, those two must have been there for a short day trip or something and just got off the first transport right before the Death Star shows up because they have to survive for the events of the next film. So, or the next episode, rather. You know, I mean, this is a spin-off as well, but you know what I mean. The continuity, the way the timeline is, those two have to survive. So the fact they're there right before the Death Star shows up is pretty funny. Yeah, a lot of fan service though, a little bit overkill at times if I'm being honest, but again, a lot of it I am a fan of. I love the final Darth Vader scene, obviously, it's epic. Yeah, some more negatives. Unfortunately, Jyn Erso is a flat character. She is very uninteresting. In fact, I might even prefer Rey over Jyn, which is a crazy thing to say because I'm not a huge Rey fan. So it's pretty, I don't know. I mean, Rogue One is better than the 3 sequel trilogy, like all 3 of them individually. So maybe I do like Jyn more just because she's in a better movie. But yeah, I mean, I would say Rey has a little bit more emotion, or not emotion, but she has a little more enthusiasm going with her, I would say. Jyn is very flat, she's very stoic, which maybe is the point, but it just makes for a very uninteresting character. And yes, I would say the same thing if it was a man. Okay, if this was a male character who is identical to how Jyn is portrayed here, it'd be the exact same thing. He would be overly stoic and uninteresting, very generic, and I just wouldn't care about him. And especially because, I'm about to talk about all the rest of the characters here, but Jyn, her fate is sealed, because that's the problem when you're making movies that happen in the history of a series or an IP, is that certain things have to happen before they already happen. So when I was watching this for the first time, Jyn does not have a future. I'm not attached to Jyn because she's not that relevant. I mean, this is why I think Revenge of the Sith, I mean, it's pretty close. It's neck and neck whether I think Revenge of the Sith or Rogue One is better. They're very, very close. But I think Revenge of the Sith edges this out and is better because at least the prequel trilogy has relevant characters, whereas these guys are not very relevant. They are going to go away. Granted, yes, it might not be entirely true because we got Andor, and we could always get a Jyn series, I guess. Not that I would really be interested in that, but the point is, main story-wise, we have main story events happening, but we don't have main characters being involved. So let's talk about the rest of the characters now. So the rest of the characters, unfortunately, I'm about to slam a bunch of them. So I do not care for Bodhi, Saw, Chirrut, unfortunately. At least Chirrut's kind of funny, but he's, I don't know, I'm sorry, just being honest. Baze especially, and maybe some more that I'm forgetting about. There's a lot of like secondary characters that I just do not care about at all. And again, they're completely disposable because of the way the timeline is set up, the fact this is a prequel, and certain things have to happen before they happen. So basically every single character in this entire movie, except ones that we already know, such as Darth Vader, such as Tarkin. I like every single existing character, not including Leia. Plus I like K2SO, Krennic, Galen kind of, I guess. That's a really short list. So the characters are not very strong in this movie. So that's a pretty big deal breaker for me. But I still like it a lot. It's still not a deal breaker. I shouldn't have used that word, because I still love this movie. It's one of my favorites in the series. Rogue One, A Star Wars Story gets an 8 out of 10, which is pretty harsh, I'm not going to lie. The main reason for that is that I want this to be lower than Revenge of the Sith on my rankings, and I already gave Revenge of the Sith an 8. So my hand was essentially forced. But even if Revenge of the Sith did not exist, does this really deserve a 9 or a 10? I would argue no. I really like it. It's amazing. Great visuals. Love how war-y it is. And by war-y, I mean I love the war aesthetic and the vibe of it and how unique it is. But yeah, I mean, it's just kind of a little bit irrelevant. If you ask me if I wanted to see a movie about how the Rebels got the first Death Star's plans in the first place, I mean, I would probably tell you I'm not that interested. I'm glad they went with it anyway because it turned out to be excellent, but, you know, I'm just saying be careful when you're picking all these older concepts, because the more you try to explain things, the less sense it's going to make over time. So the more that Star Wars does this, the less and less, the continuity is going to break even further. The Kenobi series hilariously destroys the continuity of A New Hope, and they're probably just going to keep making this mistake over and over again. But I'll give this one a pass. Love it. Amazing movie. Highly recommend it. Great action. Great music. Just a lot to love about it. So thank you for watching this review, and I will see you next time.